Hi, I'm Jana C, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm so glad in this group of men she talked about my breasts. That's nice. Super glad my husband didn't come, is all I'm saying. It's like, do you want me to come? I'm like, no, it might be awkward. So glad he didn't come. Anyway, my sobriety date is June 2nd, 2008, and for that I'm eternally grateful. And I am the fill-in speaker, so just know that. So we'll probably get out early. And I have been a home group member here. I was the chipmunk for 2 years. And my first year of sobriety, I came here religiously, and I did learn a lot. It's a great meeting to come to learn about traditions, to learn about how AA really works. And I've been grateful that this meeting's always been here. I'm married to a normie, so he likes me home at night. I don't know if you know this, I got in trouble at night 13 years ago, so he likes me around now. So when I woke up this morning, I thought, what the fuck did I say? I remember you guys don't cuss at this meeting, right? Okay, so, and I regretted it, but like I heard Josh speak about is that when I have been taught in AA to always say yes. That doesn't mean that after you say yes, you don't regret it, but you always say yes. And you always show up. You always show up for AA, and for that. That's one way to stay sober. So what it was like was when I got to AA, when I came here in the drug buggy. I think we have some drug buggy kids here, drug buddies. When I was driven here in the drug buggy, I wasn't an alcoholic, so there's that. And pretty much thought that my husband put me in treatment because I was sure he was cheating on me. Because most men put women in treatment and pay $30,000 when they're having affairs. That's what they do. And people should feel super sorry for me. And I just had a teeny little problem with pills, just a little one, not a big one, but just a little problem with pills. And that I didn't drink. Oh my God. Because I was raised in the prominent religion, and alcohol and coffee are super bad, literally. And so I couldn't admit that. But the reality is I took my first drink at 12 and had been drinking alcoholically since then. And my first drink at 12 years old, I blacked out and woke up naked in the snow. And that's kind of my drinking career, but a lot of naked, running around in the snow. But so I got here, and I wasn't an alcoholic. I had a little problem with pills. And I, too, had an experience with blonde women. I remember being driven in the drug buggy they used to be able to meet at Market Street Grill. It was a really upscale meeting. And we got kicked out. Anyway, smoking, issues like that. But and so I'm sitting there listening to this blonde woman share, and she shares that she's a real estate agent, and she's like super happy. And there's one of the women that was sitting there, and there's like 4 women that are like all really nice to each other, and I was like, what a bitch. And same thing, same exact thing, and I thought I should go ask her to sponsor me. And I'm thinking, but I hate her. And I walked up to her and I said, I guess I need a sponsor. Probably like that, like really snotty, like, I guess I need one. Not like, would you please? It's a big thing you're doing for me. It was like, would you do it? And she goes, oh, sweetheart, you never have to drink again. And I said, I don't drink. And they all fell apart laughing. I don't know how they knew I was lying, but... And that laughter is what made it so I could stay in AA. That learning how to not take myself so seriously was how I learned how to stay in AA. So I started drinking at 12. Here's my little drunk-a-log. I, of course, didn't drink all the time since you're 12 because you can't buy alcohol when you're 12, not even in Utah. And my parents didn't drink. But whenever I could get my hands on alcohol, I drank. And if I could get alcohol, I blacked out. All through high school, I remember hiding beer in my backyard. I mean, thinking it was normal, like that. Everybody hides beer, especially in the snow, because it stayed really... And drinking it before I went to high school. normal, very normal. And then I went to college, and I went to Dixie Junior College for the first year, and partied a little there. And then I decided I wanted to become a school teacher, and I got a job teaching, being a teacher's aide, and working with Navajo children. And so I wanted to teach Native Americans. And so I transferred to BYU, which is a super great place for alcoholics to go. I mean, I found them all. And, hey, Jim McMahon was there. He was a good drinker. Anyway, I don't think he's in the program. I don't think that's anonymity. But anyway, and so I drank a lot. And when I met my husband, and he was very LDS, he knew I drank. And so for 2 years, off and on, we'd go to parties, and I'd open a beer, and he would die. And I finally fell in love with him. And I also thought, this guy, he knows what he's doing. Like, right? He knows everything. He knows all about God. I don't know anything about God. And so when he asked me to marry him, and I said no. And then he asked me to marry him, and I said, can't we just live together? And he was in that Mormon thing. And so he's like, no, you have to marry me in a temple, and you have to not drink. And so I thought, well, this is a solution. And so he was my first solution, because he got super pissy when I drank. And so for about 25 years, I didn't really drink. And in that time, I graduated from college, and I had 4 children, and I pursued my profession, and I was normal for a little bit. Now, every time I got a chance to get a pill or a drink, I would drink it. But it wasn't until life handed me some things that I thought were shitty did I go back to what I knew. And in my 40s, I thought I had been just terribly betrayed by my church and by my husband. And I started seeking drugs. And I started going doctor shopping, which I was really good doctor shopper. By the end, I had like 7 that I had to make amends to. But I would seek drugs, and I sought a drug that wasn't really as high up there on the DEA's list to watch for. And so I got away with it for a long time. I also traveled a lot, and so I learned how to doctor shop in all the different states. And so I had doctors in San Francisco, in LA, Utah, everywhere. And what that does to you is that, and then that wasn't enough. The pills weren't enough. And during this time, I had 4 little kids, and I'm trying to take care of them, and I wasn't getting enough relief from those pills anymore, so I had to start taking those pills with vodka. And because I didn't drink, remember, I don't drink. I just cooked with vodka. So there was a lot of vodka in our house, and so I started drinking. And when you're drinking and using pills, and when you're coming off of those, you start to have terrible, terrible seizures. And I started having seizures all the time. I had one in Target. I had one driving, drove into a ditch, the cops came. I had, the very last one I was sitting and watching TV with my kids, 3 of my children, and we were watching, I think it was the Animal Planet, and they had a lot of strobe lights, and I couldn't get my drugs until Monday, and it was Sunday night, and I had a horrible seizure. And they called 911, and they came in and picked me up. And for a second, I could see my children. I could see my second son and my daughter, and they thought I was going to die, and I could tell it. I could tell. And I knew I was going to kill myself if I kept doing it. So in the ambulance, on the way to the hospital, I said to my husband, I think I might have a problem with pills. Not all the pills, just like a few of the pills, because I need to keep those 2 pills, but it might be pills. And then the gig was up. And then he said he was relieved because he thought I was just effing crazy, and he was going to have to put me in a loony bin. I'm like, how did you not know it was pills? They were all over the house. But anyway, he didn't know. He's a really excellent codependent. And so the gig was up, and I went to detox. And I told him I wasn't really very bad. And I told him I was going to quit the pills. And so I went to IOP. And in IOP, it was really stressful. You guys, you're in treatment. It's so stressful, right? So I would come home and have a shot of vodka because I was super stressed. And I didn't have a problem with alcohol. So needless to say, I had a really big ass relapse. And my daughter had back surgery. She has scoliosis. And she was having a piece of the metal taken out of her back. And the doctor gave me the 2 prescriptions for 90 Valiums and 60 Lortabs, I think. And I said to my oldest son, will you go fill these for me? And he goes, do I have to? And I went, oh, no, it's okay, I'll do it. And I went, and I remember picking them up and opening. I'm like, oh, you get Valium for back surgery? And putting 10 of those in my hand. And then I don't remember anything for 4 days. And they were all gone in 4 days. I took pills for my daughter who had surgery. So that's a proud parenting moment. I came to in a treatment center. And I was left there and told not to come home unless I got sober. And in the treatment center, of course, remember, my husband put me there because he was cheating on me. And so, it took me like 2 weeks to really even know where the hell I was. And you guys, you'll find this difficult to believe, but I was the oldest person in rehab because I know I'm really young. But I have 14 grandkids. I'm super old. Anyway, and so in there, I remember sitting in a circle with, this is funny, my kids, my teenager kids, their drug dealer, the Cottonwood High drug dealer, he was in treatment with me. My big joke was he needed a Letterman jacket with a D, but because he's like, oh, you're Alec, it's Mommy. And I was like, oh, hi, how are you? And so I was in treatment with kids the age of my children, and we're sitting there reading the big book, and we're reading To the Agnostic. And now I've decided that I'm going to figure out why AA is bullshit. It's my job to do that. I have a college degree. I obviously have to figure it out. Because I was raised in the predominant religion, and that they've been shoving those blue books at me my whole life. And I was like, I thought that was bullshit, so I was sure this one would be bullshit too. I'm like, these books don't solve anything. And so I was reading it, trying to figure out what was wrong with it. And we were reading We Agnostic, and it says in there, show any longshoreman or ask him about a man being on the moon, and he'll say, I bet it can happen. And for whatever reason, I thought, oh my God, could this have some sort of inspiration in it? And then I had that spiritual awakening where I knew that if I was going to get sober, it was in this book. They had other books at my treatment center. They had the 4 Agreements and all that other crap. But they had this book. And so I got really serious about it. I said, well, tell me more about this book. Well, and I remember I went up, and I have what I had the princess room at treatment. And so I had, because it was up really high in this thing, and I had it to myself. And I remember falling on the ground and just sobbing. That didn't mean I got everything. It just meant I was inspired to know that AA would work. That was it. And so that's when I asked that blonde, bitchy woman to be my sponsor. And I really love her now. But I got really serious about AA. I did whatever they told me to do. They said, call every day. I remember getting mad because I went to treatment back when you didn't have cell phones, and they had a pay phone in treatment. And, God, I feel old. Anyway, so I would have to call my sponsor every night, and they turned the phone off at 9 o'clock, and I was like, I have to talk to my sponsor. And they were like, just go out and smoke like everyone else. But I was like, no, I really have to. I don't know. I'll get drunk. And so I did whatever she told me to do. She started to tell me to go to meetings. She dragged me to this meeting. She, I don't remember, she took me on 12-step calls. She told me to show up every Sunday at 2:30, and I showed up every Sunday. I have not shown up anywhere that wasn't a doctor appointment for so long when I was supposed to. I guess I thought maybe she was going to give me drugs. I don't know. So, and then when I found out I was an alcoholic, one of my sponsee sisters was helping me clean out some closets. And we were cleaning out my pantry, and she came out, and she had a bottle of vodka and a bottle of whiskey, and I think I had tequila. Anyway, and she goes, "You don't drink?" And they were all empty, of course. And I'm like, "Well, just a little bit." I didn't even remember the story about drinking when I was 12 until I was 3 years sober. That's what kind of a liar I was. It took me a long time to know the truth about who I was. My first year of sobriety, I made every single mistake you can make. The only thing I did right in that year was I stayed sober. I think in my first year, I was co-addicted to everything. So just think about what are some of the things you're co-addicted to. You guys got the list? So shopping, sex. So all those things, I just tried to fill that hole because I didn't know how to feel comfortable without drugs or alcohol. So my second year was hell because I was cleaning up the mess of my first year. And it was tough. But I stayed sober, and I don't know how I did it. But I know I did it staying in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. During that time, my first year of sobriety, my sponsor is what I call a service junkie. And so I became a service junkie myself. Although I'm not, it's funny that Andy saw me working at a conference because I hate working at conferences. But anyway, but I did it because I was asked to, right? But I love doing this, I love sponsoring. And so my first year of sobriety, I think I sponsored like 14 girls at once. And but I was that sick and I needed that much help. And, service isn't really about I'm doing this for you. It was all about me. It still is all about me. And because it gives you stuff that you never could have. You never could have. What I've found in Alcoholics Anonymous is a new freedom. I agree that the service is what will save your life. It's what saved mine. In my sobriety, I got back my relationship with my husband, my parents. It's very cute. When I told them I did my amends to my mom, you aren't that bad. You know you're not bad. To her dying day, she did not think I was that bad. I'm like, I stole drugs from you. But in my sobriety, my parents both passed away within 4 months of each other, and I was with both of them when they went. When they died, there was nothing dirty or icky between us anymore. It was clean. It was actually the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. In sobriety, I had an experience of being, I was a whistleblower for went back to teaching school. I whistleblowed on my boss about misuse of funds. It was a wonderful experience. Utah whistleblowing laws are a little weak. But I did that. I got to have these wonderful experiences of teaching children whose parents were in addiction. I got to work at the homeless center and taught preschool and kindergarten and parent education. And the thing about that was, I remember the first day I was teaching, and a little boy said, well, your mommy didn't come and sign you in. And he said, oh, she's upstairs drunk. And I had these two cute little Mormon aides, and they were like, oh! And I said, oh, honey, I was upstairs drunk. I know that if my zip code had been different, I would have been in that shelter. I know that this disease gets all of us. I know that it is no respecters of persons. And because of that, I've had this desire to serve these communities. And I've had the opportunity to teach bilingual kids and kids that their parents were getting their high school education and work with them to get that. I couldn't have done any of those things had I been drunk and using. I wouldn't know how to be a woman of integrity and how to tell the truth to a school board. A little intimidating. By the way, they don't really like the truth. But very uncomfortable with the truth. But how to stand up for what I believe. And during that time, my brother sued myself and my other brother over my parents' estate. My oldest brother who sued me was an alcoholic, a drug addict. He passed away of the disease. It was the most terrible 2 years of my life. He served papers to me at work, but I stayed sober. I stayed sober when I sat by my parents dying, and the next day I went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. When the school board decided that it would be a good idea if I no longer worked for them, and they told me to leave, I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's how I've done life. That's how I've always done life. Once when I was driving to school, I remember I was on the phone with one of my sponsees it was our go-to thing, and she'd call me on her way to work, or I'd call her on my way to work. And we were talking about something, and I said, hey, we didn't get sober to live small lives. We got sober to live big lives. And what has happened is I live a big life. I have 14 grandkids. I know, my kids really need to stop, but I'm like, oh, you horny little things. But anyway, I have 14 grandchildren, and I get to travel all over because none of them live in the state of Utah. I'm welcomed into their homes. They fight over who I'll babysit for. Pretty funny. I wouldn't have any of those relationships had that not happened. Today I get to serve on the board of directors for a charity that will be servicing women who've been sexually trafficked. And that came out of Alcoholics Anonymous. Watching, the honor that I receive sponsoring women is that they share their story with me. And the undercurrent that I've noticed is a lot of women have been trafficked. A lot. And they don't even know they have. And the kind of trauma that they live through is horrific. And I've become friends with a lot of survivors, and I keep thinking, had I been born somewhere else? Not in Salt Lake, just a different zip code, because there's plenty of trafficking that happens in Salt Lake City, Utah. But it's such an honor to be able to do that kind of service today. It's such an honor to be able to show up for people who need help. And it is so selfish. I mean, I don't do it because I think I'm cool or anything. I mean, it would be cool if they put my name in the paper, but they're not going to do it. But it is you get so much more out of it. Every woman that I get to sit across and hear their fifth step is an honor. Every time I get to put my hand out to another newcomer, it's an honor. I should have died. I almost did. I don't for 1 minute think that I would not, if I went back out, I wouldn't die. I know I would. For whatever reason, having that seizure in my front room and having my children look at me, it seems as real right now as it did 13 years ago. I know I would die if I took a drink or a drug. I know I don't know how to take one of anything. I know it is all or nothing for me. It's how I do recovery. I'm either all in or I'm all out. And I'm so grateful that I found this program that allowed me to be all in. And you guys get to go home early, so that's all I have. Thanks.